time and allow Mission to finish off the Aphelios. But with too many frontliners, it's kind of hard to reach the backline in that sort of method.
Well, here we go. It's going to be champ select. Machi favored again, blue side, so they will have first pick available to them, but we'll see whether or not they want to let through any of these key picks that have worked in Talon's favor. Talon on your red side, and Machi starting things off here with a Kalista ban. It is going to be answered, it appears, though, immediately with the Azir once more for Talon.
What exactly is Machi thinking here? It's looking like maybe they're thinking about taking a LeBlanc or something like that. I don't really know how much LeBlanc Mission has played this split, but if it is something that he has in his wheelhouse, again, these are the finals. If you don't let it float out now, you're not going to get another chance.
Yeah, I believe the LeBlanc pick was the very last pick in game number 5 in their first series that managed to win the game. And with that said, they really banned out the Kalista because I think they were anticipating the Kalista Taric that Talon liked to play in the best of fives. And now that we look into the mid lane pool that Talon is still hoping to constrict against Mission, will we finally see the Kassadin in this series?
We'll see
Please
now. Yeah, right now, Senna has been banned out. Does Machi wish to actually ban out this Aphelios? Are they going to be the ones that try and first pick it here? Is there going to be respect shown over to Unified? There's also that Thresh you mentioned as well. Nope, the Aphelios not going to be let through for Unified.
I'm so relieved. I did not want to see a 3-1 Aphelios series. My only concern now is, again, the Thresh, but I feel a lot more comfortable with them not having access to the Aphelios than I did the Thresh, so we'll see how it goes from this point, but I still think that the utility of Thresh is a really big point of contention in this matchup.
All right, but look at
now
this.
There's a lot of...
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot of AD carries being banned out right now coming from the side of Machi. And now what is open? Misfortune? Are they trying to force a couple of AD carries that are rarely being used in the playoffs, which is, the Ezreal? But you know what? Graves is open for the taking.
All right, so Machi this time around are going to get the first pick, and they opt to use it onto the Graves. We saw the priority, and it's been now, 3 and 4 overall when it comes to the PCS. That does mean, though, for Unified, if Talon wish, they could go ahead and pick up one of these top 80 carries still on the table, like the Misfortune.
I'm curious as to if Machi is going to pick the Nautilus again, because if so, it kind of hints that they're going to play a Kai'Sa. And I know that that's the champion that there are mixed opinions on.
Oh no, not Kai'Sa.
Not the PCS Kai'Sa. We know the curse right now. It's not pretty. It's not pretty.
Yeah, it's not pretty at all. It's, I believe it has been picked 9 times by a lot of talented AD carries in the PCS and is still sitting at a 0% win rate. And Kai'Sa has been picked up by Bruce before against Talon in the best of 5 series, and unfortunately that didn't work out so well. It was, I believe, the first 2 waves had to be missed because they were pushed really, really hard. But you know what? Ezreal is open. It's the classic Ezreal into the Misfortune matchup.
Yeah, we also see here that we saw the Trundle getting locked in for Talon for their jungle in response to the Graves, as it's kind of just what's left up on the table. Mission, though, once again, will have his Syndra, most likely, unless Bruce is looking to somehow flex this. Aatrox, though, is going to get locked in for the final first rotation of picks for Machi, as the Pantheon now being covered for Talon.
And I hope they don't lock in this Pantheon, because it is not going to be a fun time against the Syndra. This makes a lot more sense, though. The LeBlanc into Syndra is a pick that it's a bit of a skill matchup. It largely revolves around Syndra's E and LeBlanc's W, but this is a matchup that I'm a lot more happy to see than I would be if I saw the Pantheon mid for Candy.
Remember, Candy on this LeBlanc didn't work out so well in the best of 5 series, in the first ever best of 5 series. But now Talon is assuming with his Kassadin ban that perhaps this Syndra can be flexed at bot side, and it is definitely sort of that answer when it comes to Unified growing in the bot side with no annoyance whatsoever. And Machi's still pretty much all smiles at the moment, and we'll see what the ban is next for Machi and Talon.
Well, you even see there that safety ban on the Kassadin in case that Syndra was flexed down into the bot lane. Just in case that was going to be a surprise pick coming out for Bruce. Machi, though, opting to get rid of the Renekton away from Hanabi. It even seems here now Talon are just, covering their bases in case they think this could possibly a bot lane Syndra.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense for Talon. They are red side. They have last pick. There's not a whole lot of variance that Machi can really do from blue side. So you cover your bases, you ban out the stuff that you don't want to deal with, and then later on you can kind of react to the other picks in terms of seeing if they're playing the Syndra mid or bot. So it makes a lot of sense for them to ban the way that they did.
Yeah, it's totally completely different considering that Machi is comfortable getting your AD carry and mid lane at the first rotation. And now for Talon, they wanted to make sure and therefore didn't really ban the Ezreal, forcing Machi into possibly the Kai'Sa or back to the Xayah. And at the moment, it is still, at least it's still clear now where this mid lane, where the Syndra is going to go.
Now, this is kind of a little bit of throwback to the start of the season, though. Seeing Bruce on his Ezreal once again was one of the primary Ezreal players at the start of the split. Was locked in, so for Machi, they're going back to try tested matchups, as they're also going to maybe now look to ward this Nautilus. Now for Talon, any last surprises here as we look towards support?
I hate the Ezreal pick so much because I don't like Ezreal into this many tanks. I find it hard to believe that they're going to have an easy time taking down these tanks. Maybe the Grave supplements a lot with that Black Cleaver, but I don't like that pick here much at all. On the other hand, we're seeing one of the champions that I have a lot of fun picking, the Yuumi being covered, but they decided to go with Thresh in the end. They didn't ban the Thresh. Thresh has been really big this series, and I'm not surprised to see it again.
And it's the same matchup too. It's going to be Koala and Thresh back at it again with the Nautilus and the Thresh. And Koala didn't have the best of performances, considering that he did land a couple of hooks here and there, but no follow-up from Machi. So hopefully this composition is able to at least not let history repeat from game number 3.
There you go. Drafts are locked in. Machi need to find a way to take home the victory in game 4. Or else their season comes to a close, with Talon being the victors and kings of spring. Talon, they're getting some comfort picks. Candy's LeBlanc has been non-stop banned away from him time and time again when it comes to the playoffs. Now has it here in a game 4 where they can look to close in their fate and take home the championship for spring.
Yeah, and it's really going to come down to a lot of, again, like about at the beginning, how this mid lane matchup kind of shakes out. It's not surprising that the spotlight is on these two and on what could be the last game of this series. We saw some foreshadowing with the Silver Scrapes after game 2. I'm hoping we get to see a game 5, but we're going to have to find out.
For sure, overall, I think it's come a long way when we look at this split. For now, it's we started the weekend with 4 teams remaining. AHQ and Hong Kong Attitude, they were eliminated. Talon could look to make the run back, came back from the lower bracket after losing in Game 5 to Machi. Now lead the series 2-1. Machi here, it's a lot of pressure. We haven't seen them in this situation before where they are facing elimination, and unfortunately, though they were up in the upper bracket, they don't have a lower bracket to fall for anymore. This is your final slot. This is your final series of spring. It all comes down to this after multiple months of work put into this product.
Exactly, and it's quite, the pressure is high, the tensions are high for sure when it comes to Machi. Talon at least has that window still if it doesn't work out in this game and move on to game number 5, considering that they've won every single game number 5 except their match against Machi in their first encounter in the playoffs. So we'll have to see how this plays out, and especially, Pro mentioned this mid lane will be insanely key. Will the LeBlanc work? Because we've seen this LeBlanc Candy not work out in that Machi series, and as well as Takeoff in that same series.
Yeah, that's true. I'm really interested to see how the mid lane matchup plays out. But another thing I'm really interested in is pay special attention to the player cams this game. A lot of times in high pressure situations, the way that players react to getting killed or a teammate getting killed can be very telling of the mental state of the team. So I really pay attention to the player cams in this game specifically.
Well, yeah, you can even see a lot of these player cams from Machi. It's all serious faces. Same on the side of Talon. They're both kind of on their edge of their seat. Usually we see from Talon a happy team almost every time they enter in onto the Rift, but You got to put that aside here as we are going to get set for Game 4 of our grand final. Talon, one victory away from claiming the championship in spring of the inaugural split of the PCS. Machi want to rewrite history once again, be the ones to actually force the Game 5 in this scenario, bring Talon to the edge, and bring it down to one final game. Let's see whether or not Talon can close it out, though, as we head on into the Rift.
And the journey for Talon has been quite an interesting one, draft-wise as well, having to deal with so many mid laners yesterday with the switch up with Apex and Uniboy, and it's no stranger for them to try and constrict and keep Candy's lane a little bit more comfy, and we'll have to see if this LeBlanc can work out and show up for this Candy.
We'll have to see here for sure, as we already see Koala fishing for a hook. Not going to find anything there, unfortunately, as he's just going to be backing off. Already a ward going down in the Pixel Brush in the river, so we'll actually have an idea of where this Nautilus has started. Even saw Talon maybe even setting up for a possible invade coming out of Machi, whether or not Gemini was looking to do it himself, but nothing too crazy happening just yet.
Hoping to get a little bit of chip damage, I suppose. We'll see where Unified will go, considering we see a lot of pings here and there. They're moving towards the river side, though. Might get an initial hook, but they're only after that vision on towards the river to track where Gemini is going to visit in the first few minutes of the game.
Alrighty. Invade coming out here from Machi. They're looking to try and secure this blue buff immediately, knowing that River, hey, he always likes to try and invade me right when he gets that, you know, early red buff on the Trundle, so doesn't really want to go for that 1v1, it seems, here inside Gemini. River should be able to answer immediately, as he'll just path over to the blue of Machi, and it'll just be a trade of buff for buff.
Yeah, I guess the pathing is a little bit different. It just enables perhaps an early level 3 for Gemini. We'll see whether or not there's going to be, a gank at least towards bot side if they do want to consider that. If Koala manages to get a hook, I guess it's a little bit difficult at the moment. And yes, as you mentioned, it's going to be an exchange of buffs here on this vertical jungle.
It's been a while since we've seen the Ezreal come out of Bruce. It's kind of fallen a little bit out of the meta within the PCS. It was always kind of the niche pickup for a couple of our main players like A2 as well as Bruce. Mainly people have been favoring it over for the Misfortune, but it looks like Machi, you know, wanted to try and take away as much of the AD carry pool as possible and see what Unified could do on a Misfortune instead. And already starting to get himself a pretty distinct CS advantage down that bot lane, zoning off Unified.
Yeah, a ton of pokes here and there coming from the Ezreal, and not a lot you can do considering that is just a level 1 Kai Wing, so not a lot of combos to deal with.
There we go, Mission actually able to get a decent amount of damage back, and also not having to burn his flash, so that's a pretty nice escape there coming out of the Syndra, as he was able to interrupt Candy trying to play aggressive and go in for the distortion, so no summoner burned off the Syndra to start things off as River makes his first appearance.
Yeah, well done. It seems to me Mission is going to be just keeping the Scatter the Weak on cooldown or online still, just to reserve any sort of aggressive plays coming from Candy. And yeah, it is definitely a good setup for bot side too.
Oh no, Unified, he's too far forward. Oh no, Koala ended up autoing one of the minions instead and got Unified on the next one. Hook is going to land though onto Kaiwing, and they're able to get another root. The Thresh going down low, able to survive as Unified intercepts the Essence Flux as well as the Mystic Shot coming out from Bruce. That is though all 4 summoners burned in bot lane for Talon, and that's going to force Unified and Kaiwing have to go back.
Yeah, I think it's such a huge problem when you're an Ezreal and there's still a lot of the thick waves. You can't exactly try to land your Mystic Shots. You still have to find that perfect angle and just rely on the autos and as well as your W. But it worked out still pretty well, I suppose, for the side of Machi, considering that's a lot of summoners burnt.
Taking a look there, unfortunately, Koala, he went for the flash forward, but I think he ended up hitting one of the minions first instead of Unified, and unfortunately for them, they weren't able to secure the kill, but at least Bruce is able to just push in this bot lane wave and able to deny that away from Unified, and has himself about a 2-wave lead over the Misfortune.
Yeah, I think it is definitely that perfect setup. Level 1 is definitely way stronger than the Misfortune and for against the Thresh, and therefore that was just, you know, really set up well. But now for Talon, it is quite different, or rather it is quite the same, since we haven't really exactly seen River after that attempted gank in the mid lane. And Gemini has been really laying on the pressure attempt on bot side, so perhaps this is the opening window for Machi to keep pushing bot side, considering that's summoner spells offline for Unified and Kaiwing.
Yeah, so we'll see whether or not Gemini wants to try and come down bot once again. It does require Koala to find a good hook, though, without having to use the flash, as Mission almost gets spotted out here, as River was looking to hunt him down. Infernal Drake is going to be our first dragon of the game. As Machi are just going to go ahead and secure vision as well as pressure around the pit. Let's see whether or not Gemini and them look to respond.
A Sheen on the first bat for Bruce. That's going to be extra damage. Unified, though, not a lot of damage stats in the form of Cull. So this is a pretty good lane for Machi. River, though, lying in wait. We'll see whether or not they pull the trigger. It will rely on that pillar and towards Kaiwing.
Yeah, it gets a little bit too far forward. Koala's going to have to try and get himself to safety. Kaiwing, though, ends up hooking one of the minions. So good guy minion taking one for Koala here, as even without the flash, he's able to get himself out without having to risk anything else. And Bruce was getting a little far forward. Luckily for him, he is, of course, the Ezreal, so he can get himself to safety. And Gemini wants to go ahead and possibly start up this dragon, but Talon is just around the corner.
Yeah, even despite even having that priority at bot side and a lot of summoner spells off for the side of Talon, still not going to be enough for them to pursue this. Mid lane, though, nicely done by Candy. Double tether. Does have Ignite.
Coming out onto Mission, and Mission without the teleport. That's going to be a free back there for Candy if he wishes to take it. Like you mentioned, did have Ignite if you wanted to friend, so Mission has to respect that, as Candy's able to find a good start here in the mid lane, considering this 1v1 matchup, especially in Game 3, was a bit rough with the amount of jungle pressure that came out of Gemini on the Rec side. This time, he's just opting to farm away here on the Graves, as River's going to go ahead and start up the Infernal.
Yeah, even managed to get that blast cone and just dodge the vision coming from the scuttler. So for Machi, they didn't really expect that to come. But in the end, it is just first dragon for Talon, and usually for Machi, they are quite satisfied with giving up the first dragon of the game and work somewhere else around the map.
Well, let's take a look back here. Bruce is able to at least get that wave pushed into the tower if they wish to, as Unified ends up going back to the base. Has the BF sword. He's looking for the first item, likely the Essence Reaver. Usually see coming out of the Misfortunes immediately. Candy's going to pick up his blue buff, and as far as things go with this series, this has been a very quiet early game on both sides of the map. Mission's not trying to get super far ahead here in mid. He's having to respect Candy. River is going to get tracked here by the Syndra. They also have a ward down if Gemini wants to try and come over. Candy's got to be careful, though. Mission could go for a combo if he wishes to do so.
Oh, it hits.
Into the hook. Oh, Candy, though. It's going to be Tarusha Barrage coming up from the Ezreal, and his first blood going on to Bruce.
I don't know why I was so hyped, because that was such a really good coordinated play with Koala. Again, both bot laner, Machi's bot lane had priority. They wanted to roam towards Rift Herald and get that first head start. Mission, though, has flash.
It's going to come on over to the north side, but meanwhile, it's Koala in with the depth charge, able to get the double knockup. Mission does not have ultimate for the rest of this fight, just trying to get as much damage as he can. Gemini also took the Rift Herald, so with that, Machi, off first blood, been able to obtain a 1,600 gold advantage before 10 minutes, and also have Rift Herald in their back pocket to try and knock down one of these towers and get some turret plates.
And it all started with this really nice setup. There's no vision over that side of that brush, and unfortunately, the Tarusha Barrage was able to snipe Candy down enough to make that roam from Koala and that flash by Mission really worth.
And this is rewarding here for Bruce as well, as he gets a free blue buff. So he can just non-stop push in with the Mystic Shot and be aggressive as he wishes. stacking up his tier as well. A great start, and it kind of rewards him for this Ezreal, because at the start of this game, he was able to find advantages, but unfortunately they weren't able to really capitalize on a kill. Now, though, he's able to cash in, and this helps out this Ezreal, and we talked about, you know, we were a little concerned during the draft, especially from Crow, an Ezreal into this kind of composition with so many tanks to go through. Well, if he's able to get ahead early, it doesn't matter how tanky those tanks are, Ezreal's always a step further.
Yeah, absolutely, and considering that during these the Dragon Dances, where poke is going to be really hell for Talon for sure, considering that's they don't have exactly that hard engaged as like a Maokai. They have to either rely on Kaiwing Tendons or perhaps even the Oran Horn. That would be their next reliable engage, but it will still give room for Machi to keep poking Talon out.
It's a good start here, because we mentioned we wanted to see what kind of the cameras are going to have, and everyone's pretty serious when it comes to the player cams here. See top lane Hanabi. This time around, we're not really seeing him on a kind of carry or even an off tank. This is full tank pretty much as far as things go. This is his Ornn, which has had really good performances during the regular season. We haven't seen it as much when it comes to the postseason in the playoffs. Look at this, full force coming out from Machi. They're looking to accelerate this Ezreal as fast as possible, get him as much gold as they can in the early game to get him online.
And this is two birds in one stone kind of thing. You actually sort of stunt the growth a little bit against Unified, who has been proved to be the huge problem.
Forcing a flash out as Gemini is getting really aggressive here on the Graves, and Machi aren't slowing down. They should be able to get a free charge here out of Shelly, as unfortunately the Bull Time just isn't enough damage.
Yeah, that's a lot of value from the Rift Herald, the first Rift Herald in the game. And for Machi, they'll be really happy to take that one, considering, again, it's a two birds in one stone kind of thing. Now, what does Talon decide to do in exchange of this? Because if they are going to invest a lot on top side to make something happen, then they might give up control over the next dragon.
See here, Kaiwing is at least just trying to do what he can in mid to support Candy. Next dragon is going to be spawning in about 10 seconds, but you did see River was trying to position himself for a possible dive on the top lane onto PK. It's been rather quiet here in the top lane, and River's going to show himself pretty soon, already getting a decent amount of damage on Hanabi. In comes that Trundle, though, and River going to have to use his pillar. Candy coming over towards side call, the Forge God. That is 4 members of Talon in this top lane, and able to get him. But meanwhile, mid, it's going to be this Ezreal getting more turret plates, as well as Gemini taking the second dragon.
Yeah, that's a lot of resources invested on towards top side, and unfortunately, Unified doesn't have anyone with him to be able to farm safely, and it's just going to get poked out by Bruce. But with that said, it's going to be one apiece for both of these teams in terms of dragons. Still not a lot of completed items on the board just yet, except for the Manemune coming from the side of Bruce. Let's take a look at this again. This was actually pretty perfect for PK, except that, you know, there's like 3 extra members going towards topside.
Yeah, and unfortunately he tried to at least avoid. Meanwhile, though, Mission was able to take down Hanabi. In comes Koala as well, and River, he can't finish off the kill.
Oh dear.
And now, unfortunately, he's going to get dove underneath the tower. In comes the Scour of the Week. It's not going to connect. Bruce, True Shot Barrage. In goes the TP. It's actually the teleport. No, it's not going to connect. He's just a little bit off. Bruce is hunting with these True Shot Barrages, and River able to get himself to safety. Candy, though, in mid lane. Bruce is able to, again, arcane shift back to safety away from the LeBlanc, so all is good. Again, it's very scary, though, that Bruce is already getting this dangerous. And the fact that Mission is able to just solo out Hanabi here, even at about 1,000 health, kind of shows that the Syndra has to be, again, respected early on.
Yeah, and then River was also nearby as well, so unfortunately that did not stop Mission at all, and Koala came at the perfect time. And with that said, Flash is not going to be available in the next few seconds for the next few fights, I suppose. And yep, True Shot Barrage. Mission, though, half HP, will try to defend this tower.
He's able to clear out a majority of the wave. Koala is also nearby in case they want for the dive, so Talon, it appears, are going to go ahead and back off. Meanwhile, we take a look. Bruce still 1 component away until he hits his Trinity Force. It's going to be Mission teleporting back into mid to soak up the farm while they can, and goes back into a bit of a Lull state for now in mid lane is Candy. Unfortunately, this LeBlanc only has that 1 kill so far. And it'll be up to him in the later part of the game to try and get the assassinations on to, say, the Syndra as well as the Ezreal. Mission's going to come around over toward the side and just pick up the blue buff for himself, as Gemini already had it started off.
Yeah, actually Luden's already picked up as well, coming from Candy, so that's a good boost at least. But this is starting to look similar to where Candy didn't really get early game kills, to the point that Candy can just keep pushing with the lead and eliminate certain targets, the squishy targets in Machi, considering everyone is pretty much squishy except for Koala. But unfortunately, they didn't really get the head start on Candy once more, so I feel like it's going to be a problem later on. But we'll see, as Machi has gotten another Rift Herald in their pockets.
Able to secure it, as well as that, they were able to stop the push coming out from mid lane, and Bruce is going to get a free tower here as well, and continuing to just inject gold as fast as possible as they can. It's now a 3,000 gold advantage. A majority of that is going to be on this Ezreal, solely just based off turret takes, and Machi looking fine right now as the trading force is online here for Bruce.
And there's no punish towards at least maybe starting a fight in the mid lane, as the AD carry wasn't around. But unfortunately, Machi had a really good start. There's still a lot of respect, and now they will opt to exchange this bottom side tower. And the problem is this Rift Herald is going to get 2 charges off of the next tower, and we'll have to see if Candy is able to at least destroy the eye and deny any sort of the next charge.
Well, they're still going to get it. Kaiwing, can he get around to the side? No, he can't.
Nope.
And that's going to be another good charge here coming out. Teleport being popped here immediately by PK. Koala wanted to go for the engage. Scatter the weak, though, is going to connect on to Kaiwing, and he's going to get taken down low. Able to get into stasis, call the Forge God into the bullet time. PK, though, is able to survive. Now Hanabi gets engaged upon by Koala, forcing the flash out of the Ornn, and Machi find another pick.
And that is Machi's composition, getting an amazing, from Machi, getting an amazing scatter the weak stun in towards Kaiwing. And again, there are only 2 options to enter the fight. It is either the Ornn Horn or a possible death sentence, and that was just a perfect setup for Mission.
And there, you saw Kaiwing. He tried to do his best to delay, but fortunately for him, Bruce had the Mystic Shot with his name on it, and with that, it's now a 4,000 gold advantage here for Machi, with Bruce heavily accelerated on this Ezreal. So of all things they did not want to happen, you don't want Bruce to be ahead on the Ezreal when, you know, you should be having a composition that can just try and lock him down as best as you can with all these tanks coming out. And on top of that, too, we saw that Mission is able to just blow up Hanabi, because Hanabi's still an item or 2 away before he gets his majority of his MR. And for Machi, this is the time to strike. This is where they should feel powerful.
Yeah, exactly, considering, yeah, there's not a lot of items to counter the burst coming from Mission just yet, since everybody is pretty much focused on banking on their damage items, and Hanabi is still, you know, building towards this laning phase against PK with that Sunfire, so it is quite difficult to deal with the burst coming from the Syndra, considering that Mission got a couple of kills earlier on and has been farming up Storm and is ahead in CS against Candy.
Go. PK and Machi are just going to do what they can on the bot side of the map. You see Candy still pushing. Does not have teleport, though, so he's lethal in the side lane with the Ignite, but if the fight does break out, he can't really join it unless it's in a nearby lane. So Machi just trying to stay away from this LeBlanc here at the moment. We're going to have Mountain Soul also onto the map, which for Machi, it'd be good to deny that one away, considering they also are running, you know, a little bit of poke, so you want to try and keep that away from Talon. And the fact that Talon has only been able to get 1 dragon this game means there's still about 15 minutes before they can even look at that possibility. So for Machi, there's a lot of room to work with, but they do have to close it out.
Yeah, and for Talon, at least you do have that Ornn to at least add more value to these items later on towards the later parts of the game, and that says that will also pile on later on when Talon especially likes to fight the late game 5v5s. But again, it is Candy not felt in the first 20 minutes of the game, so I feel like that would be a problem.
Oh, hook though lands on Koala instantly to True Shot Barrage, just deletes Unified and crew. Kaiwing is just evaporated alongside the collateral damage of Gemini, and Machi find themselves another pick.
That's a 3-0 Ezreal right now. Bruce is pretty happy, considering that he hasn't exactly had to invest on his summoner spells. It has been kept for quite a while since there's not a lot of threat again towards the backline of Machi, and it is supposedly Candy's job, but it is Machi always getting that jump first when it comes to getting picks or starting the fights.
And just that wombo of the collateral damage into the True Shot Barrage on the W, it's just like, all right, Kaiwing, we'll see you later. And Unified, pretty lucky to escape there with his life. You can see, take a look at your goal total. Currently, Machi, both their main carries with the gold advantage.
And it's just such a difficult combo to deal with, considering that is collateral damage on top of a True Shot Barrage. So at this point, it's kind of impossible to trade damage with just how much burst that Machi has at the moment, especially that this Ezreal has gone ahead, has went ahead, and has already maxed out into this Miramana, and it's going to be insanely difficult. So I feel like it's going to be a lot of pressure.
River gets himself to safety. True Shot Barrage will not land as River got himself away with the flash as well as the lantern. And meanwhile, we have Candy that's been on this LeBlanc, but unfortunately, we just haven't really seen him elsewhere other than a side lane.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, again, had to... I think it's the pressure that Mission had to give towards the mid lane. So without any sort of, early game kill or perhaps the space to roam, then Candy is definitely just stuck in the lanes. And it's all up to Talon to find the right angle to access, or to sort of gain access towards Bruce, because there's a lot of vision being invested whenever Machi decides to siege, and that means Candy can't exactly find a perfect angle for them to catch Bruce by surprise.
Call the Forge God going to come out from Hanabi, wants to try and make something happen here. Bruce, though, is safe over towards the side. Koala gets taken on down. PK, though, on this Aatrox gets absolutely obliterated. True Shot Barrage, though, onto multiple members, into the collateral damage, is able to trade back. Scatter the Weak, does not find the target onto Unified. And it was close there for Machi, but they're only able to trade back. 1 kill for 2, but they are continuing to push here onto the tower.
And Talon has no choice but to back away and respect the fact that the carries are still pretty much healthy. All of the 3 damage dealers from the side of Machi are still alive. And it all started because of, I believe it was the Ornhorn, and Bruce just had to just Arcane Shift away. And again, pretty much safe in this battle.
Now, Hanabi actually did a very good job there, at least getting the knock-up onto PK. And you see there, so close into the Scatter the Weak. That's just a couple pixels off away from Unified. So Machi are close, but they do still take the tower in top lane. Talon, though, they're able to find a kill or 2 in their favor and at least get some gold back onto, say, this LeBlanc. And Hanabi is starting to upgrade his items.
Yeah, I think that's the difficult part. For Talon, they do want to, despite having losses, they do want to keep exchanging kills here and there to at least feed off the... to feed off certain players that didn't really have the best laning phase, which is Candy and especially Unified, as Infinity Edge still not completed, and meanwhile Bruce is already on his way for that Bork, on towards that Bork, and he has a 500 gold bounty on his head. That's a pretty juicy bounty, especially for Candy, who wants to get a little bit more damage on the burst.
There we go. 3rd dragon for Machi, as they're now just 1 Drake away from the Mountain Soul to get themselves some safety and away from the burst that will come out of Candy later on. Blue buff also secured here for Mission. So they're just going ahead and get some pressure down onto this bot lane. Still about a 5,500 gold lead for Machi here in Game 4. Reminder, Machi currently down in the series. If Talon was to take the victory here, that would be it. Championship in their grasp. Unfortunately, it looks like it's starting to slip away. It'll becoming a bit of a tug-of-war between these 2 teams, as there is the possibility now of Machi forcing this Game 5.
PK standing on a ward. What does Talon decide to do with this information?
They're able to get the jump on him immediately, gets himself over to safety for a little longer. That's going to be 2 ultimates. Hanbi also using the Call of the Forge God. No Misfortune ultimate, though, might be a bit risky. It's going to be trying to be Bruce, trying to kite on back into the True Shot Barrage, able to tag River as well as Unified, and Candy cannot answer with a flank on this LeBlanc, and Machi will not lose another member. Koala did go extremely low.
I love how we had a mini 1v1 between Mission and Candy. Unfortunately, Mission was on flank guard duty, so Bruce again is the complete opposite position on where Candy was. So again, there's no threat whatsoever. And this information was used that PK was lingering around, that they managed to make it an immediate 4v5. Big problem though, there's no one that had to deal with Bruce because Candy was busy having to deal with Mission.
There you go, too. Koala's just able to get himself to safety. You almost saw 2 kills going back over to Machi off the collateral damage and True Shot Barrage combo from the Ezreal and Graves. Still, though, getting Unified a kill is nice to see. And Hanbi has continued to just, again, upgrade these items for Talon. They now have 4 upgrades in their inventories. 2 on Hanbi, Molten Edge completed for Unified, and now the upgraded Redemption actually for Kaiwing.
Yep, and that's going to definitely help try to match the damage, because right now there's just so much damage output on towards Bruce. So the big question is, while Bruce doesn't have necessarily, the QSS just yet, it's all about trying to burn the summoner spells and perhaps maybe pray that you can get an insta-kill in the form of a death sentence into the combo of Candy, as, again, there's no threat whatsoever towards Bruce.
And that's going to be Machi pressuring in. Bruce has his Bork completed as well. Looking toward his 5th item as he's already finished off his boots. Machi on the top side really want to play around, try and do what they can, see if they can force Talon to make a mistake. Do have to note, Mountain Drake will be spawning in 2 minutes, so for Machi, that will be the soul available to them.
And it seems to me, for Machi, they will be happy just trying to constrict resources away from Talon, which is to get most of the camps in the jungle and wait for the next objective to spawn, as they aren't exactly in a hurry since they have a huge lead. And at this point, it's all about waiting for Talon to be a little bit extra aggressive just in case. And with that said, 1 minute and 30 for the next dragon to spawn. And it seems to me that's going to be a reset with, Gemini going back to the base.
Gonna head back here. Some vision down on the side of Machi and around Baron. It's about 80 seconds until we have the Mountain Drake come back. For Talon, the question now, do they feel confident enough to start going for a little bit more of these team fights? We saw now that they have the upgrades onto the Misfortune. You have the 2 items, so you're having about 50% crit chance for that bullet time. You also have Candy now, who's finished off 2 of his main items, also has his boots. So he does a decent chunk of damage onto these squishy members if he's able to catch them out. And it kind of looks a lot like the series that Talon had to go up against, was against Machi, where it came down to Talon trying to be able to find a possible pick onto, say, like Gemini on this Graves. And PK, it might be caught out here. That's going to be 2 members. Ultimate Pop trying to get himself to safety. They won't chase here, but maybe the pings are going to come out from Machi if they're looking for a collapse.
World Ender not going to be available anytime soon. Not in time for the next dragon to spawn, I suppose. But for Talon, they are the way will slowly shift towards Unified as the game progresses, as Candy hasn't exactly found the burst that is needed, considering that these 2 mid laners didn't really exactly mirror their air quotes path. Candy opted to get that Banshees immediately, just to get that added protection against Mission for the insta burst. Mission with that Spellbinder, just immediately full damage.
That's going to be the unleashed power and gets Hanbi down to about 1,000 health. Machi are going to go ahead and start up the dragon, looking to secure Soul. Candy over the wall, looking for a steal. In comes River, and it's going to go on over to Machi as they secure the Mountain Soul. River's going to get caught out by a Scour of the Week into a knockup. In comes Hanbi, though, off the teleport. Gemini has to be careful. Bullet Time does some decent damage onto PK. Call of Forge God gets interrupted by Koala, able to prevent that activation, and Machi still trying to run back on the hills, but look at this. Talon, they're not able to finish off any member of Machi, but they may make a desperate call over toward Baron as they head toward the top side of the map.
And we've seen this Baron call time and time again. We'll have to see if Talon decides to pursue that as they're making their way a little bit just to go back into the lane instead. And that is the scary part. Honestly speaking, once you just get a dive into Bruce, that means that he's not allowed to do any pokes whatsoever and is forced to just reposition instead. And I feel like if they do manage to just put all their damage towards Bruce, I feel like it is enough with the items that they have at the moment, especially towards Unified. But now Machi starting this Baron, and they're pretty much in a comfortable lead to pursue this one.
So Machi looking to secure Baron here, allow them to actually look for some siege. And with Bruce finishing off his Borg already, be able to spread this down apart very fast. So Baron in hand, Mountain Soul for Machi, as they now need to start looking for the siege onto Talon. We'll take another look here at the Dragon skirmish.
Yeah, Candy attempted a steal. Unfortunately, it didn't work out so well versus Gemini here with that smite. Teleport comes in from the side, so that Hanabi gets a good start on this Orin Horde, but Koala with a hero play is unable to get that knock up, get that knock on towards the Orin ult. PK was quite low. Candy was looking for an assassination. Unfortunately, again, it is Bruce untouched. He still has his flash and heal for the past 10 minutes. This is insane. It's gonna be so incredibly hard to catch this AD carry.
Mission, you mentioned maybe they try and get the catch out onto the Ezreal. They almost get it onto Mission here. Hook, though, doesn't land as Machi were looking for a flank. Meanwhile, top lane, it's PK split pushing and starting to knock on the door of Talon's base.
And with that, it's looking really, really grim for Talon, and they're now forced to defend through these Nexus towers. And at this point, a lot of value is being unleashed from this Baron, and right now, it's not looking great for Talon.
Pressure is in onto the Nexus towers as, again, they continue. Hook almost landing there on Bruce, but he gets himself out to safety with the Arcane Shift. Candy just trying to pressure here onto Mission. Talon need to try and find something here, or else they will just continue to get sieged upon. Candy wants to jump in over the wall. Bruce already stepping forward. True Drop Barrage, able to get a little bit of damage. Bruce gets caught out, able to find himself a little bit of safety, though, with the Arcane Shift off through the buffer. And it is going to be the tower now falling. 2 inhibitors exposed, 1 already taken down. PK wants to lead the charge in onto Kaiwing. PK, though, goes extremely low, gets himself back over to safety, and he'll get taken down by Candy as they are able to take down 1 member of Machi, but lose 2 inhibitors overall.
And that is the go signal for Machi to actually go and retreat and be satisfied with that. I think that's a pretty good deal since it's 2 inhibitors gone versus 1 kill and getting a lot of value out of that Baron. And you can see there's a bit of a damage coming in already from the side of Machi, or from the side of Talon rather. I think the problem lies in how they can reinitiate the fight, which is going to be a lot of pressure towards Kaiwing.
We'll take a look here on the siege. It looked pretty good here for Machi, but PK getting a little bit too aggressive, and unfortunately for him, PK just gets ticked down there to Candy, as unfortunately the death stance isn't enough to save him.
Yeah, and right now for Candy, opting for, you know, 3rd item, Void Staff, and it really completely matches Mission's 3rd item too into the Banshee. So at that point, at least you have that little bit of penetration when it comes to getting into, you know, Gemini having as well as that Edge of Night. Maw already completed for Bruce. So the defensive items are already coming in. So it's going to make things harder definitely for Candy with at least that Void Staff helping out a little bit.
Coming out, both inhibitors were taken, and they will be down for this Elder Dragon fight that will take place now in 90 seconds. For Machi, it's just trying to set up vision, maybe try and find a pick, and force Talon to have to come to them. Talon, that is a saving grace. If they can find it a miracle steal, and then they can maybe win the ensuing fight, there is the possibility they can bring this game back, even though they are down 7,000 gold.
Yep. Fight's not over just yet. Even though Machi has an incredibly big lead, they've been using PK as that sacrificial lamb to act as their frontline. Poke connects.
So they want to try and triple inhib before the Elder Drake spawns. Candy looking for a flank, able to get a little bit of damage there onto Gemini. Alternatively, you could look to try and pull the fight. Koala's going to get knocked up. Mission is also caught out toward the side. Bruce, though, is remained untouched. Candy wants to press forward on the LeBlanc, distorting forward in toward Gemini. Hook comes out from Koala, not going to connect. Candy getting taken down to about 2/3 of his health, and Bruce still on the front line, able to soak up the damage, and again, just poking down Hanabi as the mid lane is starting to push in supers.
And you can see that the Mountain Drake really is a huge problem for Candy. He's not able to burst people down after one combo. And as the game progresses, especially Candy didn't really have a significant lead. It was definitely more of a stable lane for Candy. Therefore is not able to create much impact.
Talon just left the bot lane. Bot lane is still being pushed here for Talon. It's an all or nothing play if they can try and find this. In comes the teleport though immediately from Machi. You can see the hesitation in the eyes of Talon. Hanabi wanted to try and get in onto the front line. True Shot Barrage able to find 3 members. Kaiwing going down low, and Bruce is able to find the first kill of the fight as he continues to go on a rampage. Candy though onto the back line, trying to take down PK, and he'll find his target, but the health bars of Talon are just too low, and the third inhib falls.
And that's not a lot of structures left for Talon. They are given the chance to fight another time, but with Elder Drake already online, this means that Machi can take this extra buff in their hands and pursue more of Talon's already destroyed base. And with that said, the lead is just incredible. It's too much, and unfortunately, the heavyweight lies on Unified to get these kills, but unfortunately, there's just too much defense already on the side of Machi.
And this was scary here because for Talon, it looked like they were trying to go for an all-or-nothing play, but they, I think, are lucky that they didn't just get wiped here, because considering Bruce just remains untouched during the entirety of this fight.
Yeah, and they, again, had to lose PK once more. PK has been that sacrificial lamb, had to be that front line to be that annoyance for the squishies of Talon, and that's the reason why you see 5 kills and 0 kills for the rest of the squad, and it's been working out pretty well for the side of Machi.
Here we go. Bruce wants to press forward, getting very aggressive here. Elder buff is in hand. Machi, if they wish, they could turn onto the Baron and try and force Talon into an awkward situation. Top inhibitor has respawned for Talon. 15 seconds on the mid lane. Bot lane, though, is taken freshly, so still 3.5 minutes for Talon to wait for that one. But meanwhile, Gemini is already onto the Baron. Bruce is going to join. And for Machi, it is double super buff in hand, looking to tie this series and force the Game 5 against Talon. And for Talon, it's going to require the Miracle Hold.
It's definitely a last stand once more for Talon here, as everything is up except for the Ignite of Candy, and as well as Unified's heals. That's going to be extremely important, as we'll get to see. Everybody is pretty much maxed out on items already. No stopwatches, at least for PK. And no stopwatches on the side of Talon. Damage-wise, Machi can really overwhelm Talon in the next fight.
You saw Candy, he's trying to jump in, but that Mountain Soul helps protect Bruce, and again, he's just going to get back up immediately. Candy just can't do the cooldown fast enough. Triple inhibs once again. Machi look to press into the base as they rotate back into mid and are going to allow the minions to help them out, as now the Nexus Towers are the only thing remaining for Talon. Bruce gets a nice shot. Gemini in for the ultimate, and the True Shot Barrage ends up taking down the clone. Hanabi, though, wants to go for a re-engage, able to get the knock-up immediately onto PK, but River, he shall fall. And unfortunately for Talon, it appears that in life, death, taxes, and Game 5s are inevitable, as Machi are able to tie up the series and bring us to a final deciding game in our grand final. Spring is not over yet as they bring in home Game 4.
And there you have it. That is for the Silver Scrapes earlier, was foreshadowing the prophecy of what's to happen in this best of 5 series. And there we go. We're going to a Game 5 once again, which means this is Talon's 4th full BO5 series in the entirety of this playoffs.
-1 game. Talon have played the maximum amount of games you could possibly play in the PCS as a whole. Welcome back to the analyst desk. Of course, we're joined once again by Crow. Crow, you even told, you even sent it to me. Apparently, anything you don't like, somehow Talon are able to pull off.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Well, for one, congratulations to Talon for achieving the Max Participation Award that we talked about earlier. You guys got to fish that one out of the trophy case. But yeah, I was not a fan of the Ezreal pick, and I have no idea what happened at bot lane. That this Fortune was behind something like 2 waves early in the game, but Bruce just never looked back, and he just kind of took over the game that way. So hats off to him for making a champion that's actually really hard to make work and versus a comp like that. Not only work, but be the focal point of the reason that they won that game.
Yeah, because
he was untouched. Imagine that there was a good window of, I think, 15 to 10 minutes and where his summoner spells weren't used at all in several skirmishes, several team fights, which means there was zero threat. And I felt like it really relied on Candy to get ahead early, which we didn't really see.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like, I'm a little bit scared now for Talon because this looked like the very first matchup that we actually saw between them and Machi, where Machi played a very clean early game, and for Talon, it just felt like that the opportunities that they could try and make anything happen just didn't exist.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing here was just, again, like we mentioned, what Riku mentioned, that there was no real threat to the Ezreal. As you can see in every single team fight, he's just firing his Qs away and then going in whenever he wants, and there's no one walking into his range without taking a ton of damage. So, again, like, as long as, you know, your consistent damage dealers are able to deal damage consistently, you're going to have a good time. And that's exactly what happened for Bruce in this game.
So we'll take a look here at the post-game breakdown. 38.5 minutes, Machi are able to take home the victory. And I think it all comes down to, like, the early game here from Machi, it was very clear what they were looking to do. We saw all the gold getting funneled immediately onto Bruce. You saw them trying to accelerate his growth by just shifting him into the different lanes. And for Talon, I felt like we just never saw them try and answer this.
Yeah, exactly. Considering that we saw, you know, Candy's answer to this lane was the LeBlanc, and this is a familiar pick that we've seen before, which worked in the first ever Machi series, but also fell through on the first game. And with that said, this comp definitely worked, considering for Machi it's full damage and there's really no really tanky tank in comparison to what Talon had in the form of this Ornn.
And I think, again, going back to what you said, like, Candy really needed to be the one to really deal with the Ezreal. He's the only one to really match that mobility, and because he just didn't do it, again, there was just no threat. Even though you had these two enormous tanks who, you know, are very tough and take a long time for Ezreal to burn down, it just doesn't matter when there's no one to stop him from burning them down. So over time, Ezreal's just going to wear those tanks down, especially as far ahead as he got early in the game, where he had, like, his Muramana completely stacked and his Triforce really early in the game. There's just not much you can do from the standpoint of those champions.
Yeah, it was pretty telling when we saw the ultimate combos come through from the Graves and the Ezreal, and the fact that they were pretty much 100 to 0ing your carry with just that alone, as well as your support at, like, what, it was like 15, 20 minutes? That's usually a very concerning point in the game already when Bruce is already that far ahead. So now the question becomes here for Talon. It felt like they were just kind of put to sleep in this game 4. What do they have to do to try and bounce back for game 5?
In my opinion, this game, it's crazy because we kept mentioning it throughout the entire series. We mentioned at the beginning of this series as well. This game is won through the mid lane. I really think that if Talon wants to win this game, they have to find some sort of way to jumpstart their mid lane, or at least jumpstart their jungle with their mid laner, and force Unified to do something or make mistakes, or do just anything at all to get him off of this game, because Unified has proven time and time again, if you give him the opportunity, he will just carry the game. This game was obviously the Bruce show, but I still think that this game really comes down to Candy stepping up and doing away with the inconsistencies. Because
all right, Crow, I'm sorry, I gotta cut you off because we're already heading into the break. It's Silver Scrapes time. You know what it is. Game 5 just around the corner to decide the champions of spring of the PCS.